Well, to draw a contrast between my inch deep and a mile wide kind of wrestling knowledge, there is your vastly deep and experience based wrestling knowledge. Like you said, you've been watching it since before you were born, and you are actually a participant into this vastly confounding and interesting business that we call professional wrestling. What was it about it that captivated you? I was able to pin it to a single promo and a single match. If you have watched it since the beginning, can you remember it that well, the beginning of it?
I can't tell you the beginnings of it very well. I can tell you the first memory I have of anything wrestling wise, and that was WrestleMania 6. Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior. I actually have that Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior tattooed on me. Because this is my first memory of wrestling. And WrestleMania 6 was in 1990, which would have made me 3 years old. That's the first thing I have. Now, to be fair, you're going to say, oh, let's see the Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior tattoo, but it's a Ultimate Warrior Care Bear riding a Hulk Hogan unicorn that is surfing. So it's not really the tattoo you would think it would be.
It's still awesome.
And just to stay on point here, I'm straight edge, so you know this was not a drunk tattoo. this was I've made so many poor decisions sober, I could not even begin to imagine the decisions I would make inebriated. So, WrestleMania 6 is the first memory I really have. Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan when I was young, I was just enamored by, and of course, being young. So throw Sting in there, by the way. I absolutely adored Sting when I was young, which is really fun because I have a picture of me dressed up as Sting when I was really young for Halloween. And then just this past October, was it October? It was November when I worked with AEW. I got a picture with Sting. So that has come full circle. So that's very fun. I think I was so enamored by the colors, the Big Tan guys with colors just illuminating from their bodies. And then as I got older, so Hulk Hogan first and foremost was my favorite wrestler. Then it was Ultimate Warrior was right up there. He didn't stay around long.
No.
It continued to be Hulk Hogan. And I'll say I was primarily a WWF guy, but we watched WWF and NWA/WCW. Plus stuff that we would get sent from. We had relatives, my mom rather, on my mom's side, she has relatives that lived south. Like she was into wrestling down in Georgia, like stuff like that. How she was getting the WCCW stuff from the Von Erichs, Freebirds, and things like that.
I was wondering how she got that stuff because I was like, that's. Yeah,
it was right. Like being up in the Illinois, Wisconsin area at the time, I'd like, how are you getting that? Well, yeah, she's traveling. She's able to see these things. And she's going to events as well when they were anywhere around. I don't remember me having like a favorite wrestler once Hogan left the WWF. Like I was so sad for him to be gone. Now keep in mind, this is 1992 when he's leaving. So I'm just 5 at the time. But I recognize when he came back to win the championship at WrestleMania 9, I was like, this sucks. Like I was 6 years old. I'm so like, no, this sucks. Like Bret Hart rules. Bret Hart's never been my favorite wrestler, but I absolutely love Bret and Owen, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair. But I don't remember having a favorite wrestler again until Shawn Michaels started emerging as a babyface, which was during the Diesel run.
My birth champion.
Your birth champion. Growing up, man, I was enamored with the really cool gimmicks. The Undertaker. Undertaker was one of my favorite wrestlers and then remained my favorite wrestler for a long time. I loved The Undertaker. But it boiled down to the gimmicks, the superhero-ness of it, the bad versus evil of it, being able to talk people into the seats. I loved that. And then, of course, as I started to enjoy the art form of wrestling more and more, and I was able to get my hands on stuff from Japan and stuff from like Stampede and things like that, I became much more intrigued with the in-ring aspect with less going ons of a Hulk Hogan promo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was more interested in what was going on in the ring, what was the story being told psychology wise, not just through the ring, but through the weeks, shows to shows, things like that. I had no idea like indie wrestling existed on such an indie level. I was 19 and like they would come to my local college and stuff like that, like MCW, which was CM Punk was on the show, so CM Punk wrestling at my local college was always fun.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I had no idea it existed like from 3 towns over, you know what I mean? I turned 19 and my buddy got me like a styrofoam spray painted NWO belt.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
like, yeah, I'm going to walk around all over the place with this because duh. And my buddy was working at a gas station at the time, so we just went and visited him because we had nothing going on. He had flyers for POW Wrestling, which was taking place that night at a town over. And it used to be a different company. They had just changed to POW Wrestling. This was their very first show. So I went and checked out that very first show. And then during intermission, just went and approached the owner, like, how do I get involved with it? And he said, talk to me after the show. And so they tried to convince me to do like, you should do a fantasy camp, which is where you pay to do some stuff, see if you like it. I was like, I don't need to pay to see if I like wrestling. I like wrestling. I'll just sign up. And so that's how I actually got involved in wrestling. And it's been a whirlwind of a blasty ever since.
Yeah, I remember seeing a picture with I don't remember if I think it was with you and your mom and wearing the POW shirts, and you've worked with POW several times. POWW.
POWW Entertainment, so POW Purely Obsessed Wrestling World Entertainment. That's where I was trained. It's still my home promotion. I haven't worked there since the beginning of COVID, but I still consider them my home promotion because that's where I was trained. The owner, Jimmy Blaze, I was trained by Rough Crossing, Scott Spade, Chris Cairo, all great guys, and all still, I don't want to say still there because we've all ventured out and then we would continue to come back. So yes, over the years, I've continued to wrestle with POW, but then just been branching out.
Yeah, you got to travel the territories.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You Mr. Drive to New York for a cheesecake or whatever the hell it was.
It's really funny too, because one of my closest friends in wrestling, Casanova Valentine, he's a deathmatch wrestler out of Brooklyn. At the time, his brother lived in Iowa. Now, if you know anything about the Midwest, you know if you need to go somewhere, you're going to drive. And so he's in Brooklyn. He lives on the East Coast. So for him, it's like if it's more than an hour, it's like, whoa, dude, not a big deal. You don't have to worry about driving. So he worked in 2017 when I ran a show. He worked that show, and his brother drove from Iowa 5 hours, and Casanova was just like, I can't believe he drove so far to see me. I was like, dude, 5 hours isn't a bad drive. Like for me, it was like, oh, that's nothing. But I didn't realize like how different it is all over the place. Like I worked one of his shows and it was a 9-hour drive. And to me, it was nothing. That one's not true because I flew into his show and then flew back the same night because I had something else in the morning. But we drove to Buffalo to do a show. And that was just like, okay, do a show. No problem. And then, I mean, I've had weekends where it's like I've had friends where they don't have anything going on in the weekend. I don't have anything going on. So I drove down just into Knoxville to grab dinner and then drive back. So when gas prices were, okay enough. Now if I'm going to pay the money to drive down to Knoxville to fill up a tank of gas by myself, without throwing guys in the car for a show, I might as well just grab a plane ticket at that point.
Yeah. I feel you there.